Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. You can ditch your mask in Monroe County beginning this weekend as the last county mask mandate in the state ends.
So I think there's lots of reasons to be optimistic about begin moving back towards a quote unquote normal routine.
The move comes as the number of positive COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations have rapidly declined. Permitless gun carry legislation took an unexpected turn this week as its language was placed into a bill about Delta 8 THC.
The language has taken a number of turns. It's kind of like playing Candyland.
Police say the bill will make their jobs harder, but the GOP claims a fix is possible. And more than 1,000 people gathered for a rally in Monrovia this week as the People's Convoy made its way across the state on the way to D.C. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, the state's last remaining county-wide mask mandate ended with the expiration of Monroe County's health emergency. Pat Bean reports on why now and what you should still do to combat COVID-19.
The mask-required signs on doors and storefronts will be a thing of the past come this weekend. After 2 years of on-again, off-again mandates, you'll no longer be required to mask up when inside schools, businesses, restaurants, anywhere. But that doesn't necessarily signal the end of the pandemic.
I don't know if I'd still call 65,000 cases a day in the U.S. and 50,000 still in the hospital and 10,000 in the ICU and 1,800 deaths per day endemic yet. That's not really endemic, but I think, we very well could be exiting a pandemic phase.
McKean says that, even though the mask requirement is set to end, he's not ready to ditch his mask.
I think I will still mask in certain indoor situations like grocery stores or assembly hall and places like that where there's larger amounts of people and maybe I don't know the vaccination status.
McKean says people continuing to wear masks should use only the high-filtration K95 or KN95 masks rather than the cloth or surgical mask, which have proven to be much less effective. The end of the county's mask mandate coincides with the expiration of the state health emergency. And it comes as COVID numbers in the state have fallen drastically from the last wave in mid-January. Just 6 weeks ago, almost 19,000 new cases were reported daily, about 3,400 Hoosiers were hospitalized, and more than 70 were dying daily from the virus. Today, those numbers are down to about 300 new daily positive cases, fewer than 1,000 Hoosiers are hospitalized, and daily deaths are in the single digits.
So I think there's lots of reasons to be optimistic about begin moving back towards a quote unquote normal routine.
One thing that may work against the state is the fact that just more than 54% of Hoosiers are fully vaccinated. And with COVID numbers dropping, so too is the number of Hoosiers getting vaccinated. Kranis co-authored a CDC study on the effectiveness of vaccines. He says if you haven't been vaccinated or partially vaccinated, you should still get the shot. He says the best defense is having been vaccinated and having had the virus.
But if you are partially vaccinated or if you only have been previously infected, the data that I've seen suggests that your immunity will not be as good as if you are fully vaccinated.
McKean says another thing to keep in mind is that children under 5 are not able to get the vaccine, and the virus isn't going away anytime soon.
I think really what I think concerns me the most are all the high risk, all the vulnerable, and all the immunocompromised that are kind of hung out to dry a little bit here. And I think we're going to have a lot of disabled and suffering people from this, because as we know, death isn't the only outcome.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Pat Bean.
Legislation to allow handguns to be carried without a permit appears poised to pass after last-minute maneuvering by Indiana legislators. Indiana may soon join 21 other states which have adopted similar measures. As Brock Turner reports, one major problem worries law enforcement officers, even those in favor of permitless carry.
For Detectives Hadley Goodman and Chris Egan, no day is normal. They routinely see the impact of gun violence on their community.
We could go from a very tragic accident, then the next run that we go to could be, a person with a gun that we have to deal with, it's barricaded in a house.
They're partners on the Viper unit for Evansville's police department. Goodman and Egan target organized crime and gang violence, which results in significantly different challenges than many of their peers in law enforcement. That's one of the reasons they spent hours waiting to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee last week.
There are going to be more people carrying more firearms, and there's going to be less opportunity, fewer tools for us to be able to identify who is proper, who is improper.
The debate has been both ongoing and contentious.
That suggests right now we're infringing on someone's constitutional rights. And otherwise, your office would be derelict.
After an 8-hour Judiciary Committee hearing, an amended bill was passed. During the hearing, Republican member Eric Cook voiced his displeasure at the changes.
This guts the bill completely, and this is the equivalent of a no vote on the underlying bill.
But later, the bill was deemed ineligible. Days later, the original language resurfaced in Cook's committee in a bill about Delta-8 THC.
Well, the language has taken a number of turns. It's kind of like playing Candyland with, for example, legislative amendments. And sometimes you get stuck in gumdrop swamp. Sometimes you end up being sent back to the beginning. And we've been looking at this language for a number of years.
Madeira is a professor of law and a Second Amendment expert. She has extensively studied state gun legislation and spoke out against the legislation during committee and stressed the Supreme Court's decision that all rights have limits. Everyone agrees on that, but not much more.
Because the Second Amendment right is a very important right, but yet at the same time involves items and tools that can implicate dangerous consequences, then I think that those responsibilities might be higher or different for the Second Amendment than for other constitutional rights.
Guy Relford is an attorney dedicated to the Second Amendment. He sees it differently.
A license or a permit is simply the process by which the government gives you permission to exercise a right you already have.
Those contradicting viewpoints have been the foundation of years-long debate. What, if any, check is justified before a person can carry a handgun? Most law enforcement personnel agree with Goodman and Egan. They argue the current system works well by quickly and correctly identifying individuals who aren't permitted to carry a handgun. If permitless carry is adopted, Egan and other officers say it'll change traffic stops for anyone driving with a handgun.
That's something that would have to be created. Which is going to cost money, time, and basically do the exact same thing that the permit system that we have right now does.
Under Indiana law, a distinction is made between handguns and long guns, like rifles or other military-style assault weapons. Anyone who is eligible to carry a handgun can carry those weapons without a permit, and proponents of permitless carry say traffic stops under the new law would mimic those stops.
What happens today? Somebody gets pulled over with an AK-47 in the backseat. Are you telling me law enforcement doesn't have the capacity to figure out whether that person is prohibited from possessing a firearm? Of course they are, and they know they are, and that's why they blow that out of proportion, because they've been dealing with long guns in vehicles or long guns, in people's possessions for decades.
Nearly everyone, Relford included, admitted tweaks or changes to Indiana law would be needed to give this information to officers on the street. No such system is now currently in place, and those against permitless carry say those fixes would need to occur before the bill, not after. But not all law enforcement agrees.
And so really the onus is on us to try to figure out processes to put in place so that we can identify them more quickly.
It appears enough members of the GOP's supermajority agree, despite party chair Kyle Hupfer writing in an op-ed last year, quote, Republicans will always back the blue, end quote. The superintendent of the Indiana State Police, appointed by then-Governor Mike Pence, said otherwise if this bill passes.
This is the problem with the supermajority. It stifles, prohibits, and oftentimes limits public debate. I sure hope you choose to show deference to law enforcement professionals that understand the magnitude and the frontline effects of this legislation, rather than the possibility of getting reelected or unelected at the next primary.
While Goodman stopped short of using Carter's words, he said he wouldn't feel supported if the current language passes.
There are citizens of Indiana who just want to exercise their constitutional right, and maybe if we can find some middle ground where we can do that, would probably be the best solution. But just to do away with it altogether, no, I don't feel like we would be supported.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brock Turner.
We're joined now by Indiana Public Broadcasting education reporter Jeannie Lindsay. Welcome to the show. Jeannie, you've been following, busy time of the year, been following a lot of bills, but two we want to try and get to right now. Ban on transgender girls competing in girls' high school sports. So tell us a little bit about the bill, and you think the governor will sign it?
Yeah, so this bill actually applies to K-12, so high school, middle school, and elementary. It requires that schools essentially designate a gender for their sports, whether it's boys sports, girls sports, or mixed or co-ed, and it bans transgender girls from participating in girls' school sports. It doesn't say anything about transgender boys, it's only focused on girls. And so there's been a lot of pushback, a lot of concerns, a lot of controversy with it, and but Republicans supported the measure. Some in the Senate voted against it, but it got enough votes to head to the governor after not being changed at all in the Senate. And the media has asked Governor Holcomb if he is going to sign this. He's been adamant about girls participating in girls' sports, boys participating in boys' sports, but he hasn't really responded to questions of where transgender girls fall into that. But given his status as a conservative Republican and the support from his party, people seem that it's likely that he will sign it into law. But the ACLU has assured that they will sue if he does, so it's not over even if he does sign it.
And the Senate effectively killed the school curriculum and parent oversight bill. Why was that so controversial, and does that even have a chance of continuing to hear more about that?
Yeah, so people had a lot of concerns about the foundational reasoning for this legislation. It was also really wide-reaching. It talked about curriculum, parent oversight. It talked about posting learning materials. People were worried about the workload it would put on educators. It also talked about parents having to sign off for mental health services. And so not just the foundation or ideas behind the bill, but the function of it as well. And the Senate changed it to try and accomplish some of those, address some of those concerns. But ultimately, the Senate decided to kill it. The Senate leadership and the Senate's sponsor of the bill, said they wanted to maybe have some pieces of it to other legislation to get some chunks of it. But the House said yesterday, Speaker Todd Huston said they are not interested in any bite-sized parts of 1134. They liked it as it was passing the House. And so we're likely not to see anything else from this bill this session from what they've said so far.
We just have 30 seconds. A little bit about this bill headed to the governor's desk that would require public comment at school board meetings.
Yeah, so this requires school boards to offer public comment. There used to be a time on it, but lawmakers decided to take that out. So just requires that public comment is heard. After we saw some school boards last year cancel their public comment because of the tension and aggression that came up in their meetings. That can't happen anymore. So,
Jeannie, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
Annexation reform will have to wait another year as Indiana legislature grapple over how cities can stretch their boundaries without losing public support. A proposed bill essentially flips the current annexation process. Senate Bill 73 states Indiana municipalities could proceed with annexation after gaining approval from 51% of homeowners in the annexed area. Currently, residents must gather signatures from 65% of opposing property owners to stop an annexation during a remonstrance period. If more than 51% are opposed, residents can challenge the annexation in court. Monroe County Residents Against Annexation member Colby Wicker says opponents of two areas in Bloomington's annexation now have to find a lawyer.
He must be a pretty fine lawyer because he wanted $30,000 in retainer fees. We don't have that type of money, and so that puts us at a distinct disadvantage when cities can have their own legal teams.
State law does require a city to reimburse $37,500 in reasonable litigation fees, but only if remonstrators are successful in court. Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton says cities need to grow rationally and appropriately.
I'm afraid the legislature tends to have a kind of rural bent that wants to keep urbanized areas from joining the city. But I think if rational minds prevail, we can develop a system.
The bill passed the Senate but was tabled in the House Local Government Committee so legislators could gather more information. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Monrovia became a rallying point for the People's Convoy as it made its way across the country protesting government overreach. And skiers say Paoli Peaks has gone downhill since it was purchased by Vail Resorts a little more than 2 years ago. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Wake up.
Wake up to the world.
To the marvels, the mayhem,
the music.
Wake up to the wows, the woes,
the wonder.
Wake up to the commotion, to the beauty,
to the humanity,
to the hope. Wake up every morning, fully awake.
NPR Morning Edition.
Tune in to your local station or download the NPR app.
Year after year, PBS has been bringing you the news you trust.
We care about the things that are going to affect the lives of each and every American.
The in-depth analysis you need.
What we normally see in these big crises.
And the true stories that have to be told.
We're a place that people can come not just to find out what happened, but why it matters.
It's all thanks to the support of viewers like you. Thank you. And stay tuned to America's most trusted network.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. As Russia's military invasion of Ukraine moves into its second week, it's becoming a global battle of Western democracies against dictatorships. Holden Absher reports.
An Indiana University professor who studied Russia's leader Vladimir Putin for 2 decades says she's surprised by his invasion of Ukraine, and what happens next is anyone's guess.
I will say that he does have a history from the moment he came to power of an extraordinary ruthlessness.
Russia's ongoing attack has left Ukrainian cities in rubble and citizens in hiding. Hundreds of civilians have reportedly been killed in the first week of fighting. It's the latest challenge to a democratic government. IU political science professor Jack Bielasak says more countries have been turning away from democratic governance than toward it in the past 15 years due to the economic impact of globalization.
The assault that the Russians are engaged in is, I think, an attempt to both curtail the democratic progress that Ukraine has shown over the last few years, but also to reconfigure the international security structures around the world.
Bielasak says 20% of the world lives under democratic governments as of 2022, compared to 50% in 2005.
This is beyond the Ukraine, it's beyond the region, and it really needs, I think, to be a strong response to safeguard democracy, but also international norms of behavior.
According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, more than 1 million people, or more than 2% of Ukraine's population, has been driven out of the country. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Holden Absher.
Paoli Peaks Ski Resort is ending its 3rd season under the ownership of Vail Resorts, which operates more than 36 resorts around the world. This year, the hashtag VailFail has been trending on Twitter because of long lines, lifts not running, and poor conditions at many Vail resorts. As Pat Bean reports, local skiers say Paoli too has gone downhill.
Paoli Peaks is closing for the season on Sunday, and David Wilcox has been taking advantage of every opportunity he gets to hit the slopes.
I believe I have 20 days I've been here this season, and I think they've been open 22. It might be 21 days, 23.
This is Wilcox's home hill. He's from Bloomington, and he's been skiing and snowboarding here for the past 17 years, and he'll keep coming back, but not as much as he used to.
2 years ago, the average would have been 90 hours a week that the slopes are open, and now we're down to 28 hours a week.
Since Vail bought the resort, Paoli is also down to 1 or 2 lifts running a day. Lines can be long and trails are limited. The tubing hill has been closed all season. Vail Resorts purchased Peak Resorts, which owned Paoli Peaks and 16 other properties in the Midwest, in 2019. Vail announced its intentions to pump $15 million into improvements at the resorts in 2 years. But, as with most industries during the pandemic, ski resorts were not immune to the staffing and supply chain issues. Paoli and other Vail resorts are feeling the effects.
We've had a hard time finding staff this year, definitely. And, we've had to assess our operations differently than we have in the past because of that. We opened with one lift and about 50% of our terrain open, and we've been able to expand that through the season.
Some cite low starting pay. The advertised rate for full and part-time lift operators on the resort's website is $11.25 per hour, and a vaccine requirement for workers as barriers to employment.
It's been really rough, especially since, the Walmart in town offers more to start.
Stuart Winchester is the editor and host of the Storm Skiing Journal and podcast. Based in New York, he focuses on the lift-served skiing universe, which means keeping an eye on the more than 450 resorts in the U.S.
Vail Resorts made a deliberate decision to not invest in labor and to instead sacrifice the quality of the ski experience at these non-destination resorts throughout the Midwest. I feel that was a mistake.
Contrast that with Perfect North Slopes in Lawrenceburg. The resort is a little more than 2.5 hours northeast of Paoli and the only other ski resort in the state.
They're still running 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, 14 and a half hours a day, staying open until midnight on Friday and Saturday. When you are a skier in the Midwest, you buy that pass expecting night skiing and expecting skiing 7 days a week.
Perfect North opened its season December 9th, more than a month earlier than Paoli Peaks. Its lifts are fully open to skiers and snowboarders 89 hours a week.
This year, we all hope would maybe be a little more normal, and it's turned out to be anything but. So we have a lot to learn. And I think long-term, we see Paoli. I mean, it adds value. It's exactly what I said. It's close to an urban area. There's certainly passionate skiers and snowboarders that are there.
Over the past 15 years, Vail has done more to make skiing affordable for frequent skiers than any other company or entity in the history of skiing. What they have done with their Epic Pass is to reshape the business model of skiing.
But stock in Vail Resorts lost a third of its value this season following all the criticism. Complaints accuse Vail of running the once independent resort into the ground, and numerous people say they won't be back. Wilcox hasn't reached his breaking point. He's frustrated by some of the changes, but it's still a convenient place for him to get outside on cold winter days.
This is where I come to spend time and get my exercise and have some fun.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Pat Bean.
A trucker-led convoy is making its way across the country for a weekend rally in Washington, D.C. The group is protesting 2 years of COVID vaccine mandates and other restrictions. The group stopped in Monrovia for a rally Wednesday, and Mitch Legan was there.
A group calling itself the People's Convoy arrived to a crowd of supporters Tuesday evening. The group is traveling from Southern California to Washington, D.C. to protest vaccine mandates and what they say is government overreach during the pandemic. It's inspired by last month's trucker protests in Canada.
It's time that the truck drivers around the world stand up for their people of their country. It's time that the governments around the world learn that they work for us, not the other way around.
Although the convoy was started by truckers, others have also joined the group. At this point, most participants aren't driving trucks. Kim West drove from her home in Idaho to California and has traveled with the convoy since it started last week.
We're tired of the Constitution being stomped on, and we the people want to take our country back.
Although many vaccine and mask mandates have been rolled back, the convoy supporters are frustrated with how the federal and state governments have handled the pandemic the last 2 years.
Lost my photography business when they shut. I wasn't essential, and we couldn't qualify for anything, and we're just tired of the government telling us what we can and can't do.
The convoy held a rally for a standing room only crowd at a farm equipment auction hall.
Us truck drivers, we're just the ones that decided to start this off, right? We're like the chauffeurs. We're going to open the door for all of your voices to be heard where they need to be heard.
Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita made a surprise appearance at the rally. He praised the truckers and their backers for supporting liberty and taking the country back.
Thank you for standing up and giving us, as the last speaker said,
giving us all some courage to stand up for ourselves and stand up for this great nation.
The convoy is calling on President Biden to end the COVID-19 national emergency. It wants bipartisan congressional investigations into COVID's origin and how federal and state governments handled the pandemic. And it's calling for an end to government vaccine mandates of any kind.
We want to restore liberty and freedom guided by the Constitution of the United States. It's not only about the mandates.
The People's Convoy plans to join other convoys for a peaceful protest at the Capitol Beltway that surrounds Washington. Organizers have given mixed signals on whether they'll enter the city. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.
And Perfect North Slopes welcomed home Olympic gold medalist Justin Schoenfeld and silver medalist Nick Gepper last weekend. Several hundred children and adults lined up for the chance to meet and get autographs from the athletes who learned to ski on the slopes near Lawrenceburg. Congratulations, Justin. That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallor Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.